Kozuzambola and warmest greetings to all. I'm Sangi Dorji, founding Dean of the JP Singhi Owachu School of Law in Bhutan. A very sincere welcome to JSW Law, as we call it. A big thank you to all the friends from near and far who have joined us virtually for this webinar, the first in our sustainability series. As you may know, we are the first and only law school in the Kingdom of Bhutan. Our mission is critical: to prepare exceptional Bhutanese students to become future leaders of our country. All students receive full scholarships and participate in legal clinics, providing services to the local community. Our innovative curriculum focuses on legal education in support of Buddhist principles. This includes gender equality, sustainable development, environmental protection, and democratic institutions. Just about a month ago, we gathered virtually to launch the JSW Law Sustainability Fund. This is a special effort to strengthen our operations as we prepare for an exciting move to our new campus and to launch new programs for students and faculty. Today, we are thrilled to explore one very innovative part of JSW Law curriculum, our social enterprise clinic. You will hear from our clinic director, Adrian von Benstroff, as well as some of his talented students. We also have a special interview today with an award-winning client of our social enterprise clinic, Bhutan Blossoms. We are very fortunate to have as our host and moderator today, Miss Victoria Engelhorn-Nell, a prominent global entrepreneur and philanthropist. Victoria has led a wide variety of social enterprise efforts in South Africa and Spain, focusing on empowering women and young people to gain skills and improve their economic situation. These include, for example, an investment fund for social enterprises that provide basic products and services to people living in poverty, a children's shop in Barcelona to promote the sale of eco-friendly toys, clothes, and accessories to help poor women make a living, Zip Zap Circus, which provides children with free education, training, and skills to better their lives through circus arts, the Children's Radio Foundation, providing training skills and tools to youth across Africa to become part of global media networks. Victoria's own social enterprises range from hospitality to health to agriculture, all with a focus on providing people with serene and positive experiences, protecting the environment, and producing superior farm products. Victoria has won several awards for her work and speaks often on topics of social impact and inclusion in businesses, in particular regarding the role of women leaders. We are so grateful to have met Victoria 2 years ago through a special program called Women for Impact, which brought international leaders to Bhutan to help advance women's empowerment. Victoria, we appreciate your work and your vision. We are eager to hear from you, and thank you so much for hosting and moderating today. Over to you, Victoria.
Thank you so much. I feel very flattered to hear all these accolades about what I've done. I think my conversation I had with the team a couple of days ago was to say that actually social enterprise is something that we all should be doing with all our businesses, and it's actually the basis of business. It's just that with time, people have become too concentrated about profits, and instead of being concerned about their staff and the purpose of why they created the business. And that has been my purpose since I've started being involved in business, because I always believe that if I do create new businesses, I wanted to make sure that they created change in whatever field I was involved in. So when it was just a toy shop, it had to make a difference. With my hotels, I make sure that a team is created and that team gets educated and treated correctly and take part in the profit that the business actually makes, because that is what a business should do, that everybody involved can take part in its growth and in its profits. And then obviously your product, if you create a product that has a social change, that adds to the social impact that you can have through your business. And if you're then even lucky enough to be able to scale it, then you create an bigger impact. I think I've been very fortunate. My main focuses at the moment are the circus school, and that is to allow youngsters to grow and experience what it means to be dedicated. And I think that is very important in any business, that you understand, and especially as an entrepreneur. I think the other day somebody said to me, you are an entrepreneur, so you know what hardship means. It's not easy to it's not easy to start your own business, and starting a social enterprise, you find even more challenges, because obviously it's not the normal way of doing business. I think when I was in Bhutan, one of the most incredible things I felt was that Bhutan in its own already has this philosophy of community, which has been lost very much in the West, I think. And I feel that very much when I work in Spain, that sense of caring about the people around you and working as a team. And I think in Bhutan, that is still very much alive. We also spoke about size, which is obviously always very important. And Bhutan, being a small country, can focus on smaller businesses, which then makes creating a community something quite achievable. And yeah, I was asked to also comment on law. I'm not very big on law, but obviously, because social enterprises are considered being new, even though I think it's a very old way of doing business, laws obviously would help allow people to think more towards doing businesses in a social way, especially if you had benefits that would come with it, and then maybe this sense of having to go always towards growth rather than sustainability would change. I think that is an introduction to me. I hope that is good. And I think I pass over to you, Adrian.
Great to see you again, and Victoria, thank you so much for the intro to this meeting, and we are very happy to be here. And before we move on to the movie, I just wanted to briefly introduce who's here with me today, and maybe I just start with a very quick introduction of myself. So I'm German, and before coming to Bhutan, I was working as a lawyer, and then already 8 years ago now, my wife, who's a filmmaker, convinced me to go to Bhutan for a year to make a different experience, and she wanted to do a film here. And then I quit my job in the law firm, and we packed our things and went to Bhutan. I hadn't even been to Asia before that, so it was a very new experience. And after being here for a while, I met a young Bhutanese entrepreneur, and we started a business together actually. And I decided to stay here, and that was already a food business working with farming communities, and we did that for a couple of years, and then it was sold eventually, and I joined the law school now 4 years ago. And so that's just a brief introduction. Then I have here with me two students of the law school, Jigme and Cedrup, who are last year students at JSW Law. They will have some time to introduce themselves as well. And Tinle Namgir, who's the founder of Bhutan Blossoms, one of our clients. And yeah, so welcome everyone. And we are very happy to launch today during this event a film which we have produced in the last couple of months. And this film we did during the last semester with the students a small series of different films, and each film was conceptualized and directed by students enrolled in the Social Enterprise Clinic. And this film we are showing you today is about the Social Enterprise Clinic, about the work we've been doing there over the last year. And yeah, so it's a premiere, and we are happy to watch it together with you. So please.
The theory that has been dominant in the private sector over the last decades is that of shareholder primacy, which says that the sole purpose of the existence of a corporation is to increase the profit of the shareholders. And this way of looking at what business should do has led to a situation nowadays where 69 out of the 100 largest economies in the world are businesses and not countries. The way that corporations are run today, that is at the root of many of the problems we have in the world. The environmental issues such as climate change and species extinction, and then also the social issues, the social divide, where 8 people own more wealth than 3.6 billion people, half of the world's population together. But at the same time, what we are seeing globally is a new movement, a new development, which is also termed the fourth sector, the social entrepreneurship sector. And social enterprises take inspiration from the non-profit sector by being founded for the purpose to solve social environmental issues, and by being mission-driven and transparent with the impact that they are having. And at the same time, they take inspiration from the private sector by being profitable and by using the resources in the most efficient way. Now, if we look at the situation in Bhutan, there's actually a very fertile ground for new ways of thinking about business, about the impact that businesses have on communities and on the environment, which is grounded in the rich Buddhist heritage and the values that this country is built on. And while Bhutan might not be in a position to rapidly develop new technologies, Bhutan can become a place where social innovation is taking place, where new models are being developed about how businesses look at the impact they want to have.
The Social Enterprise Clinic is the course that was designed for our last year students to apply their legal knowledge in the field of social entrepreneurship. Together with the professional supervisor, our student worked as a lawyer, come up with the business plan and the proposal, but mostly our student focused towards giving our legal services as pro bono. In return, our students are getting the skill to become a market-ready lawyer, as well as the skill of becoming a social entrepreneur.
I always thought that working with people who are daring enough to start their own businesses would be interesting. Like, it is an art in itself. They are implementing businesses from a mere idea. So that thought alone made me join Social Enterprise Clinic. And for me, I'm a very indecisive person. So working for small businesses made me cluster up my courage and set me into a right gear to achieve the social and environmental goals of a business.
I am a person who is genuinely interested on learning about how people interact with each other in a business setting, how they behave, and most importantly, how a business functions. So the Social Enterprise Clinic has given me opportunity to interact with business owners, entrepreneurs, and clients. As a result of those experiences, I'm more confident and equipped to advise any kind of businesses.
We have worked with Bhutan Blossoms, which is a food production and manufacturing business. It is a social enterprise that is conceptualized and founded to solve social and environmental issues in the rural community. We are proud of the works we have done with Bhutan Blossoms in acquiring the land lease, rebranding its business, and building the needed trust with the community.
In spite of all the traditional and community dynamics and differences, we managed to get everybody together in the same room on an equal footing to discuss and come up with their own idea with regard to the use of their profit share. And most importantly, you got everybody to unanimously agree on a single idea.
We are working with Nudge in London, an NGO who helps children in conflict with law to reintegrate back into the society, as well as who helps those families in difficult circumstances to sustain themselves. We are working with them to come up with a social enterprise business model which can give them a steady income apart from the donations that we get from the donors.
One crucial project that we have been working on has been in supporting the graduates of the first and only school for the deaf children in Bhutan called Bhutan Institute for the Deaf. We are helping them to become entrepreneurs by developing a business that is evolving around the deaf culture.
Through several interactions and meetings with the students there, we came to know that they did not see any working opportunity for them after graduating from the school. So we also came to know that they were interested in farming, and that is where the social enterprise clinic came into the picture. We helped them set up a progressive farm with a secured market, and it really touched me because I was able to make a difference in their life.
Through the clinic, we also got the opportunity to deal with children in conflict with the law, divorced women, children in difficult circumstances, children with disabilities, and women entrepreneurs, of course. And personally, after hearing their stories, my heart was really broken, and it motivated me to work harder and more for them. And before joining the Social Enterprise Clinic, I was limited within the idea that in order to help them, we have to become a lawyer. But I was clearly wrong, because I learned that with entrepreneurial skills, we can actually help and empower them, which will eventually give them the means to sustain their life.
One of our most significant contributions has been in broadening the understanding of social enterprises and the private sector as an important part of our national pursuit of gross national happiness.
Thank you so much. That was an absolutely beautiful movie. And I think the most incredible thing about this movie is that to see how many of these projects, I think 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, we would have tackled them through philanthropy, giving money to those projects. But now we're thinking creatively and making businesses. And that's, I think, the big difference. And that creates empowerment, because a person who earns their own money rather than becoming hands out is somebody who knows he's contributing and receiving money for the work that they have been doing. And I think that is the biggest empowerment that you can give somebody. So I'm very in admiration with all the projects that you have done through the law school. And with that, I would like to hand over some questions to the team, starting with what is JSW Law's approach to experiential education?
So maybe you could share, because the one thing is how we have designed it, or how the law school thinks about experiential education, but then I think it's maybe interesting to hear from the students' perspective. So
my name is Sedrup Salmo, and I'm a fifth-year law student. So I'll be briefly talking about the JSW Law's approach to experiential education. Before actually talking about the clinics, I would like to start by saying that before the clinics actually came into fruition, it was screened using a policy screening tool which was developed by Gross National Happiness. Gross National Happiness Commission. This is Bhutan's national development planning body, and the clinics, it was screened by the policy screening tool developed by this Gross National Happiness Commission. And then the clinics program, it is provided to 4th and 5th year students, for the 4th and 5th year students, and they have the liberty to select join in any of the clinics that they want. And currently JSW Law has 3 clinics, that is Human Dignity Clinic, Appropriate Dispute Resolution Clinic, and Social Enterprise Clinic. The clinics it focuses on giving skills to students that will make them effective, ethical, and innovative professionals after graduating from the law school. And as for the works that the clinics do, it differs from the clinic's objectives that when they initially started, each clinic had different objectives. And for the Human Dignity Clinic, it basically works with the vulnerable section of the population, especially women and children. As you have already seen in the video earlier, and they work with children. If they are in conflict with the law, then they try to find solutions and then work for them. And for the alternative appropriate dispute resolution clinic, they work out of the court, out of the court dispute mechanism system. They work with them, women and also children in conflict with the law as well. And then for the social enterprise clinic, you have seen how the works we have done. We work with entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. We help give them we provide them legal services that they otherwise could not afford. Secure, and then we also help them come up with sustainable business models. And the clinics, it not only gives us practical knowledge, but we also have intensive seminars where we get to reflect and process the practical experiences that we get in the clinics.
Maybe just two additions to that. Thank you very much for sharing. Like one is we have two different focus areas. One is individual client representation, where you have seen a lot of the examples in the film, and then also we do policy advocacy work, and that is true for all three clinics. So there we rather focus on the systemic level and try to help legislator and to come up with. Are we still correct? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, these are the two different fields. And then what the clinics want to do. So on the one hand, the ambition is to give experiential education experiences to students and get them to be in a place where when they come out of the law school, they are already practice ready and practice experienced. But then also the clinics have the ambition to become centers of excellency in these three fields, and to become places where knowledge is being created and disseminated. Yeah, that I just wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very good. That's probably more a question for the students is, what is social entrepreneurship? I think it would be interesting to hear what it is for each one of you.
So I think there's entrepreneurship, and then there's social entrepreneurship. And when it comes to social entrepreneurship, we are impact driven in terms of sustainability, in terms of the environment, our culture, and empowerment, and all of the things that we have discussed previously. Mm-hmm. And I think the main difference here is that in social entrepreneurship, profit and growth is a means to an end and not an end in itself.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what's also important is on the one hand to move away from an ecosystem perspective to an ecosystem perspective, right? To move away from competition thinking towards cooperation and working together, and seeing the opportunities in working together, rather than approaching business from a competitive mindset. So yeah, I think what Jigme has said is also for me, that's like the purpose is there in the first place, right? And then the business is the means to move towards that. Victoria, maybe I would also like to hear from you. I think one interesting point was that you said for you social entrepreneurship is actually a very old way of doing business, right? While in the film we said there's a new movement which is social entrepreneurship, and I think both is true. But I would love to hear from you. What is your personal view?
Well, when I say, you know, the olden day when you did a business, you start a business because you have a great idea and you get people employed, and you want to take care of these people because you become a family and you run this business together. I guess it's a very simplified version of talking about a business. That's why I was calling it the old way or the true way of doing business, because I truly believe that we've moved into a shareholder role in businesses. So it's all about the shareholders and what they can take out of the business. And we need to be thinking much more about stakeholders. So nowadays, when I try to raise funds for new ideas, I always ask the people, are they stakeholders or are they shareholders? Because I don't want any shareholders. I just want stakeholders. That is my new approach to future endeavors. The next question is all about law and why train lawyers in this field? I mean, how would you answer that?
Yeah, so I think that there was also at the beginning when the clinical program at JSW Law was developed, there was quite a lively discussion about should entrepreneurship be actually part of that, right? Shouldn't the clinics focus on more traditional, let's say, development aid and human rights work and these kind of things. And I think actually the role of lawyers in this whole endeavor of social entrepreneurship can be quite diverse and quite broad. On the one hand, what you've also mentioned earlier is we are looking at legislation. So how can the laws of a country incentivize, support, and strengthen businesses that do have a very strong social ambition with what they want to do, and so that's one side. But then also, if we look at individual social enterprises, then the organizational design question, right? How do you set these businesses up? How do you create relationships with communities? How do you strengthen the social and environmental goals through legal design, through the DNA of a company? And how can you protect social enterprise from mission drift? Because I think what's happening in many cases is there is a good ambition at the beginning, but then the pressure from shareholders, from investors comes in, right, to increase the profitability, and then every day there are decisions that need to be made, and every time it's a question, is it moving towards the purpose or is it moving towards the profitability? And that can be the same, but it can also be at odds. So I think their organizational design, legal design can play a very powerful role in how social enterprises can be structured and how they can be protected also. We feel at JSW Law that there's a big role for lawyers actually in this, and that's why we've decided to put a focus there also, and train lawyers that have a sensibility and an understanding of social entrepreneurship and of the potential.
Thank you. No, I completely agree with you. I mean, what would you say the state of social entrepreneurship is in Bhutan?
So yeah, like also as mentioned in the video, I think generally the Bhutanese society, people that start any enterprise in Bhutan, many of them are very impact driven. So I think even in relation to other countries, if you look at the startup scene there, then here there's a lot of focus on the values there, and I think that comes from what you've shared at the beginning, Victoria, also your experience here, that Bhutan is still very community focused, right? It's a very collective society with the the expectation that people put the society, the well-being of others first, right? So that is there. But then on the other hand, there is a bit also a contrast there, I would say, to many like to the way that business has developed over the last decades, which in many cases is very much consumerism driven and just import of products, a lot of trade and into Bhutan basically. And so on the one hand, there's a big potential there, and on the other hand, a lot of like there hasn't really been a strong support for these socially driven enterprises. And I think there's at the moment there's a kind of an awakening in many ways. There have been attempts in the past to look at, okay, how can we use this G&H framework that Bhutan is famous for to certify businesses and so on, but that so far hasn't really picked up yet, but there's more and more thinking into this direction. And currently there's also a development where the central bank and some other stakeholders are looking at legislation. How can they pass? How can they create a conducive ecosystem for social entrepreneurship? And there's, for example, an attempt to develop a framework for impact investment, to look at how can impact investment funds be incentivized and structured in a way that they actually support this wish to move towards social entrepreneurship. So yeah, there's a lot of movement happening. It's a very interesting moment in time, and also for us as a law school, a lot of opportunity to engage with the different organizations and that want to move into this direction. So yeah, it's an interesting time, but still a long way to go in terms of the ecosystem that needs to come into place for this really to thrive.
It's quite interesting because I mean from the outside, obviously, you know, gross national happiness is actually very much like the basis of social entrepreneurship. And if that is being lost, then actually gross national happiness is being lost. So I'm glad that there is a move towards it, because it almost feels like it's a move towards preserving your culture and your beliefs at the end of the day through social enterprise, because it is part of what gross national happiness is. I mean, is there such a thing as Buddhist corporate ethics?
So I think that I would pass on to one of my students.
I think it's quite a tricky question to say whether or not there is a Buddhist such a thing as a Buddhist corporate ethics, and the lawyer answer is that it depends. And but I think there are two ways of looking at it. If the question is there a distinctive set of Buddhist corporate ethics, then it's obviously the answer is obviously no. But then the question also entails whether or not there can be such a thing as a Buddhist corporate ethics, and whether or not there should be such a thing as a Buddhist corporate ethics. And there the answer is yes, because I think when you think of Buddhism, it is simultaneously a sort of a organized religion, and then at the same time it is also a way of life in both sense of the personal and the communal, right? And to you know way of looking at things, from looking within to find self-awareness, and then to looking outside to create and find harmony. And there I think certain Buddhist values and principles can play a huge role, especially in corporate and business ethics, because I think there have been many ideas and concepts and even literature on what we call now the Buddhist economy, right? And then the way I see it from a Buddhist perspective, at its core is the principle of interdependence and the middle path philosophy. And there, when we talk about interdependence and then the business and corporate side of the world, I see it at three levels. At the basis is the Buddhist individual, right? And then there is the Buddhist corporate, and then there is the Buddhist economy. And then when we talk about interdependence between these three levels, it covers a whole range of issues, from environmental sustainability to intergenerational equity. And then if we really go into our belief system, then we believe in karma and then the afterlife, right? And then it spans from intergeneration to even multi-life sort of thing. So we believe in the next life, and then the karmic connections and the merit that we accumulate in this life. So I think it can play a very important role in business. And then when it comes to the individual level of both an individual and as a corporate or business entity, there are certain principles that we still practice today, like the principle of Tatamchi, integrity, and Sambasemke, that is of pure mindset that is free from all the distractions and abstractions that we sort of see in the world today. And then I think it all, when we can incorporate all those principles and values that we have and put in an extra conscious effort, especially in doing business and in corporate ethics, to redefine what is now seen as the conventional way of doing business. And I particularly liked what you said about the difference between stakeholders and shareholders, right? And if we talk about interdependence and stakeholders, I mean, we are all stakeholders, right? And we are all part of the same world, and we are all stakeholders in it. So I think there can be such a thing as a Buddhist corporate ethics, and that there should be.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think this interdependentness is something that we have seemed to have lost. We don't think that we interconnected with the world or with the beings around us, and not just other human beings, but animals and nature in general. And I think that's where Buddhism is actually such an incredible belief system, because it makes you very aware of that you are very much interconnected with everything around you. And if you believe it and if you live it, then you cannot do but social enterprise. So it is the basis of it all. What do you consider your favorite story of success?
So I think there's a couple of stories we could share, but the one that somehow I think I feel most passionate about, and then also that the students have had a lot of interaction with, is that of Bhutan Blossoms, and we will come to that in the next part. So maybe we will not go into too much depth here, because we will share with you some more of those details in a minute.
And failure?
Okay. Failure, yeah. I've mentioned earlier that after I came to Bhutan together with a Bhutanese friend, we started a food business, and we kind of developed this under the business was owned by a cooperative, and this what happened was after a while we realized, okay, we need to get much more capital to build this food business than we thought, and we looked for investors, and then we found a group of investors that was willing to invest, and we had set this business up in a way that 100% of the profits were actually to be reinvested, and for the benefit of all of the farming communities that were involved. And now the investors, they agreed to that, and we signed a long big contract that regulated that all of the profits would be reinvested. But then it turned out after a couple of months that not all of the investors had really kind of understood what that means, that they would actually not be able to make any profits out of this venture in the long run, and that caused a big conflict, and in the end led to the situation that we had to sell this business to bring peace again to this whole situation. And there were a lot of learnings there, and one was a big challenge in having farming communities in a position where they need to make big decisions about transactions and so on, and things that were kind of not really concerning them on the community level. So we saw, okay, we need to develop a different model somehow that reflects the capacities and also the willingness of the different stakeholders to participate on their level, and then also that it's so important in any venture that everyone who is involved is on the same page, right? So I think social entrepreneurship also requires a lot of communication and a lot of coming together, really continuously being in discussion about what the goals are, and to be sure that these are shared. So there was that was a difficult experience, but also led to a lot of learning. I always believe that if things don't work out, that's also the place where you can learn a lot of things, right? And where it gets really interesting. So yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I know we have Q&A afterwards, but there is a very relevant question that came in asking, is Buddhist law based on conciliation?
I think for me the right word would be harmony, and then I also alluded to it earlier, the middle path philosophy. And even in terms of Buddhist laws and even in terms of social enterprises, I think it is a very relevant concept, because when we say the middle path, it is not the compromise of two extremes. Right? It is trying to innovate and trying to come up with a middle path, essentially, that is in harmony with all the other extremes at the same time. And I think and I believe that it is possible, because even in laws, I think we have our appropriate dispute resolution clinics, and then that is a move away from the conventional system of the zero-sum game negotiations and court dispute settlements. Right? And in social enterprises, we are basically trying to say that the extremes of profit making and the other end is in terms of sustainability and environmental impact and cultural impact. And we are saying that it is possible to be impact driven and at the same time sustain yourself, generate revenues and profits, basically not as an end in itself, as I earlier said, but as a means to a common end, that is of achieving a harmonious level of growth and maybe a value-driven sort of result for all the stakeholders involved.
Thank you very much. I think Adrian wants to interview now Bhutan Blossoms, an incredible company that actually when we were there, I think just started or was busy evolving. And I'm so excited to see how well it's doing and how I mean, the videos are amazing. So I'm very eager to hear how it all is working out.
Yeah, so let me just once again introduce everyone to Tim Nambi, the founder of Bhutan Blossoms, and how we thought we would do this is to show you, the audience, a couple of short clips. They are always just like a minute or even less, and then some impressions from Bhutan Blossoms from the work in the field, and then to talk about different concepts and ideas that Bhutan Blossoms is pursuing. So maybe we could start with the first clip. maybe Tinley, we can start very basic. Maybe you can explain to us what Bhutan Blossoms is actually.
Before I get to your question, I would like to thank the law school and the organizers here for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences with the project, and also like to thank the enterprise group for helping the project throughout in different workings with the farming communities and in the project itself pro bono, and for that the project is very grateful for the support we received from the law school. Coming back to your question, so Bhutan Blossoms, we started in 2018, and so we are a food production business, and what we are doing is we are evaluating different agricultural products. So we are growing organic edible flowers, and then we are blending that with rice and herbs and spices that grow in the country, and then we are selling it as a niche product, sort of like a gifting product for the international market, but we are also trying to create products for local market, and in all our activities we always our goal, our ambition is always to bring the farming community at the center of our activity.
So the second question is, what was your personal motivation to start Bhutan Blossoms?
There was a lot of discussion about Buddhist values and ethics there, and I feel there's a huge influence from the experiences I've had with Buddhism and the Buddhist values here, and also personally being grown in a farming community like most youth in people in my generation. I think early on I had a very close experience with farming communities and how agricultural practices are being done there. So that was one thing, and more recently I actually worked in the food business that Adrian was mentioning earlier, and there I had the opportunity to work really closely with rural farming communities there, and it was such an enriching experience in the sense getting to know the real challenges, but also the opportunities that were there in the rural farming communities, and what I saw there was, on the one hand, there was huge potential in these rural farming communities that we were working with, and on the other hand, there was also huge potential for this for agricultural products which are developed or which are created with social and environmental values in mind in Bhutan, of course, but there's a huge growing demand in the global market. So that sort of inspired me to start this project.
Great. So Bhutan Blossoms works in very close relation with farmers groups in rural communities, and with this next clip we want to introduce you to the chairperson of the first community that Bhutan Blossoms started to work with already a couple of years back. So please.
Gehab khara da cheba chin ngash du gehab di mapala gato to chibe imola to sunsu panalo te gashu chin ngash du gehab betsina ta ngache iho du mi du subo chin de ta gachi thegale beru da phi gehab lo nyom go mola gachma so chin ngache nimerin chi labi gola rangi sanam nalo mola rangi telo nimerin chi labi gondi ta ngache lui di ngache dula te sem di ngache kibla ngache lu gawayu sala go gachma so chin ta rangi be rangi lam mola bet hobe begose mila tari be tabe masoji ja naba benula tanga chi sadi to namsemi mache lura bere rangi nongi lura use bedo mola te tanga chi namsemi malethemi mendu so kachi use ben mi ani bendi ta rangi ranjine tan de dans bego namsemi khachela te ranjine tan me dejume me dans be ma be masochin te rangi ta phaji puji be sami sadi so khar me junme.
So my next question is, Tinley, maybe you can share with us, first of all, what is Bhutan's vision for agriculture as a country, and then I would like to hear what is the environmental mission of Bhutan Blossoms.
Right. So I think for a while now there was a huge push from stakeholders at all level in the country to really push the 100% organic, for Bhutan to achieve that vision of going 100% organic, and be it at the policy level as well as all the relevant stakeholders were really trying hard to go 100% organic. So I think there's a huge movement there, but that's not without challenges, and there are several challenges. Just to name a few, one is access to market for farmers who are going into organic farming, and then also accessibility to know-how for organic agriculture, and also accessibility to inputs, to name few. So I think these are few challenges that are there with Bhutan's push towards 100% organic. And with regards to how Bhutan Blossom as a project is trying to achieve that, is we've throughout the process, whenever we develop certain products, we always did it in a way that whenever we developed a product, we did it in a way that could solve the environmental and farming challenges that are there in these rural farming communities. And we always encourage farmers through providing market to whatever they grow, to go as regenerative as possible, and to practice this regenerative agricultural practices back in their communities. And for example, currently, with our small processing, we are already evaluating about 25 different agricultural products from our primary farming partner. And and also going forward, we want to continue working more with other rural farming communities there, and to replicate the similar models there as well.
Yeah, I think in general there's a big role that food companies, producing businesses can play in also the whole climate change issue, because a huge amount of carbon can actually be stored in soils if we change the way that agriculture is practiced. So the idea is that food businesses can actually design their product range in a way that it encourages things like biodiversity on the farm, crop rotation, including perennial crops and all of these things. And so I think it's a great.
Sorry, Edwin, just to add, we have already seen impression of the farming community and the farmers we are working with, and actually in collaboration with them, we have set up the first EU organic certified farm in the country. So so that's like a small step for us to achieve this mission, basically.
cham chitru zoni temle me ladi kam chi de jum jodi bochin chidang lu phimi gi la chi ladi gi te ga hibdalo tanga che la kachira belura mi chi gi thachi mi chi gi wanse lu member kachi zum chi thachi di beru tanga che mi khara chi khatin de bulu chu te chi lu ani tinde chab di gi be te ani lada ne bini.
What I would like to ask is a profit sharing model has been developed for this project, right? And Victoria, you also mentioned earlier how crucial it is for the employers and the stakeholders in the company value chain that they benefit in the value that's being created, that they take part in that. So maybe you can share with us about the profit sharing model that has been developed for Bhutan Blossoms.
Right. So like I briefly mentioned earlier, so we are working in partnership with this farming community, and everyone involved in the stakeholders. We sort of believed that so the challenge with the farming communities currently is they're marginalized, and they are actually the main player in any food processing business, but they're sort of kept on the side, and every year they have to fight for trying to sell their products, produce, and so we thought why not create a business where they are brought to the center and everything revolves around them. And we've been very fortunate actually to have the social enterprise clinic at the JSW School of Law to support us in building this model. And what we are doing is at the end of every year, from the profit we generate from the project, while the prices for the raw materials are being paid, at the end of the year we'll allocate a certain percentage of the profit. And so we allocate about 60% of the profit back to the community, and from there 20% directly goes with the farmers that we're working with, and and the 20% is allocated to the community, and that can be used as allocated as a community development fund. And we have all agreed that this fund can be used in when all 20 farmers, all the households in the community find a consensus on how the funds can be used, basically. And we've actually, I think it was this year we did this consensus building in the community with the support of the Enterprise Clinic, and it was amazing to see how involved the farmers were, and to see the sort of impact that the potential impact it would create in the future.
And so you mentioned 20% and 20%, and then the rest of the profit?
So yeah, the 20% goes to the farmers group, the 20% as a community reserve fund, and then 20% is reserved for as a operations or as a reserve fund for the farmers to the farmers group to work with. And then from the remaining 20%, remaining 40%, the 20% goes to the employees of the project Trukmeto, and then again from there the 20% is used as a reserve fund for the business.
Thank you, Tinley. I mean, there's a lot of things we could still talk about, but I think in the interest of time, we have to move on. Maybe we end with clip number 5, which is just 30 seconds, some impressions from the project there, and then we can go to the question section where the audience, all of you listening today, can have an opportunity to get in conversation with us. So please.
I just want to say thank you so much for this, because it's, like I said, when we were in Bhutan the last time in 2019, I think I bought some risotto with flowers, and I also bought some petals to put on our food, and it was absolutely incredible. And I'm so happy to hear how it's evolved, and especially I love the way how you do your profit sharing. I think it's a very beautiful global way of including everybody that's involved in the community, but also acknowledging the farmers that are obviously doing the work. Because I agree with you, agriculture, funny enough, has always been pushed to the side. They're usually the last ones to receive anything, because the profit is made in later stages. And I think it's quite good to value them more, to make them understand how absolutely necessary they are to society as a whole. And you bring that into the picture by sharing the profits that business does with everybody else. So the education that you're giving the people through that is saying, listen, we're making so much money, we can actually give money to all of you that are not involved, because we're making so much money, which is great. So thank you. I think I'm very inspired by your project. I think I'm just looking if there's any questions coming in from the audience.
Yes, hello. I have a question, if you don't mind me being live.
No, perfect.
I was wondering how COVID has affected the operations there in Bhutan. And just, the impact of this current era on social entrepreneurship in general, with not just the challenge of the pandemic, but also with issues like climate change being so much in front of people's minds. Thank you.
Is that a general question with regards to the social entrepreneurship sector in Bhutan, or would you like to hear specifically from Bhutan Blossoms how they have been affected or how they have been going through this period?
Yeah, I think it would be great to hear from Bhutan Blossoms. And then maybe Adrian, you could talk about in general the sector. It would be good to have an example, just curious, how has it affected Bhutan Blossoms? Has it been detrimental, or on the other hand, some businesses have had opportunities during the pandemic to do even better?
Thank you for the question. So we were actually affected quite badly in the beginning when the pandemic started, because in our initial years we made really good revenue from our sales of our product in the local market for international tourists. And when the pandemic started and when the doors were closed off, we really struggled to sell our product in the local market, so the revenues were affected severely. But luckily we were exploring opportunities, and we actually got opportunity to sell our product in international retail market. So we've been selling on a crowdfunding basis to Switzerland some of our products, but we also through this challenge, as we were exploring for alternatives, we came across an international retail store in Australia, and after sending our trial products to them, they have agreed to do trial sales in their stores. So that sort of came in as a savior for the project, so to speak. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think more broadly, there is we have to be very it's very clear that the pandemic has greatly affected every enterprise in Bhutan. I think there's quite a also the tourism sector was the second biggest sector in the country right after hydropower, so a lot of unemployment. Luckily, a very strong leadership that has guided through this crisis. But generally, I saw a study recently done in the UK that was looking at how social enterprises performed in times of crisis. So they were looking at the financial crisis to 2008, and actually what the data showed is that social enterprises did comparably very well in times of crisis. And I think also what Bhutan Blossoms has experienced, and what we are also seeing with some other enterprises that do have a very strong transparent social and environmental mission, is that there's a community there also to support, right? If a lot of people believe in the importance of this, then even in times of crisis there is so support there. And so I think generally there especially looking at the crisis we currently have and the ones that are coming our way with climate change and all of the issues there, it's even more important to build business value chains that are inclusive, that include a lot of different stakeholders, and that build trust, right, with supporters, with consumers, with people involved in the value chain. Because if you have this trust, then you get through times of crisis also in a better way.
Yeah, I completely.
Victoria, how are you experiencing this in South Africa and in the other countries where you're working?
Well, I'm also in hospitality, so in Spain and in South Africa, and it has affected us badly. And actually, it's quite interesting to just see how I'm also a landlord of different restaurants and things like that, and how businesses were destroyed very fast because there wasn't a culture of saving, also of making sure that you can sustain yourself when crisis is hit. And I think when you standing on your own, and on top of it you don't have a structure that can sustain you in crisis, then you get destroyed. So your point of creating that community allows everybody to kind of come in and assist. And the same in my case, which was really interesting to see. So in South Africa, I run a small hotel, and my staff has been working for me for at least most of them over 10 years of time. And when the crisis hit, they knew I was going to support them, but they also came to the platform to, okay, say now we have time. It doesn't matter if we're receptionists or if we are in the cleaning team or if we are in the cooking team. We come together, and now we scrape. We actually renovated the whole space. Some became painters, some started actually building, some became plumbers, and it was because that community had been created, and people weren't fixed in their own little niches of what they were supposed to do. And I think that's been incredible. And in Spain, it was interesting to see how we run a farm and we do regenerative farming, and people, the local community, noticed us more, because now suddenly it became important to eat locally, because they couldn't go anywhere else, but also because now they decided, okay, what do we actually have around us? And we have now created a good platform of local clients that will come back over and over again, and because now we're at the doorstep, and maybe you don't need to go to Greece, you can just stay in Spain. So that was positive. There's always positives everywhere. I've got another question here. I'm asking, what about Bhutan cordyceps business?
Is the question how it was affected, or more general, what the cordyceps business is, or you just have that? What about that?
I just have that, but I would imagine with what we've spoken is that more general, he says.
I think maybe just for people who don't know what that is, the cordyceps is a mushroom. It actually starts with a worm that goes into some difficult to explain relationship with a plant, and then is attacked by a mushroom, and it turns out to be like a dried kind of a mushroom that looks like a caterpillar, and it is in the Bhutanese culture. It's been used for a long time to improve the immune reaction and to cure different things. And then also there's a pretty big international market. So Bhutan has been developing this business with the goal to strengthen the high. This only grows in the very high mountains, and the approach of Bhutan was always to give this business to the yak herders, the nomads that live in the high mountain areas, to make it to give them a future there, right, and to help them with income. And that has been very successful. Has been an important business. It is now under pressure from two sides. One is that in times of pandemic, people maybe also in many countries have less money to spend on things that are maybe not the necessary goods, everyday goods. So I think at the moment the business is a little bit disrupted. And then there's also a climate change issue, which basically causes that these cordyceps only occur higher and higher in the mountains. So there's also a question how will this be in the future. But there's a lot of I think hard work to ensure that this is done in a sustainable way in Bhutan, which I think is not true. It happens in a different way in many other countries or in a few other countries where this actually also grows. So yeah, also a challenging time for the cordyceps collectors in the high mountains of this country. Yeah.
Especially because if it goes too high, you're not allowed to go there anymore.
I mean, these yak herders, they live very high, and they go like with the changing climate. They also go up higher. But yeah, then obviously at some point there's a border there with China, and so there's a lot of questions there. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I don't have any more questions. Is there any more questions that people want to ask live? And if not, I mean, it has been absolutely incredible and really, I lost the word for it. When you learn a lot of things, sometimes with the languages you forget what the words mean. But from my side, I've learned a lot, and it's been very inspiring. And I'm definitely looking forward to coming back to Bhutan and maybe coming to visit all these other projects that you're doing. And I think the law school is doing an incredible job to support these businesses through the clinics, because every time you have a new person coming to see your business, especially when you're in an environment like what we find ourselves in social entrepreneurship, any new opinion is a very good opinion to hear, because we have to be flexible, we have to be resilient, we have to think in different ways. So we can't be stuck in a rule book of what has been done before, because we are not doing things like before. So I think clinics are incredible, and bringing in young blood like that is always the best thing to any kind of innovative business or endeavor. So thank you.
Victoria, also before our dean takes over, I just wanted to say also thank you so much from our side. It has been very enriching to talk with you about these topics, and thank you so much for taking the time.
You're welcome. I'm always here, even far away, I'm here.
Great.
Wow, what a fascinating discussion we have had today about social enterprise and its role in Bhutan and beyond to make the world we share a better place. Many thanks for our host and moderator, Victoria, and to our participants, not just Adrian and our social enterprise students, but also our client Bhutan Blossoms and our wonderful audience as well. In closing, I would like to reflect again on our theme of sustainability. It is so important that we at JSW Law continue programs such as our Social Enterprise Clinic, which are designed not only to teach students, but to help the larger community as well. We hope that you will join our leaders in supporting the fund. Last month, two of our most dedicated supporters, Hugh Warrior, Chair of Global Law Firm White & Case, and Eric Lamelson, President of the Karuna Foundation, announced that they would match the gifts to the Sustainability Fund up to a total of USD 40,000. Today, I am pleased to tell you that we have raised USD 26,000 towards this match. Please help us get further along this in our effort. And please stay tuned for our next event. We are planning in January a focus on climate change with a special report from Eric Lamelson on the COP26 climate talks in Glasgow and how JSW Law can help address this urgent global issue. Thanks again to all for joining today. Dashidilek.